Fact 1. Your phone has more bacteria on it than a toilet seat. The average smartphone screen carries around 10 times more bacteria per square inch than a toilet seat. Toilet seats are cleaned regularly and made of materials designed to resist bacteria. Your phone, on the other hand, is warm from its battery and processor, and warmth is exactly what bacteria love. You touch it hundreds of times a day with hands that have touched door handles, money, and elevator buttons. You press it against your face and eat while scrolling. Most people clean their toilets weekly, but have never once wiped their phone screen with anything antibacterial. The majority of bacteria found on phones are harmless, but studies have found E. coli and Staphylococcus on phones regularly. The phone in your pocket right now has been with you everywhere today. Every surface you touched, every room you entered, it has collected all of it silently. Wipe your screen down. You have officially earned that piece of advice today. Fact 2. You cannot hum while holding your nose closed. Go ahead and try it right now. You physically cannot do it. Humming requires air to move through your nasal passages and resonate in your nasal cavity. That airflow is the entire mechanism that produces the sound. When you clamp your nose shut, you seal off that exit route, and the sound simply cannot form. Your mouth stays closed, your nose is blocked, and there is nowhere for the vibrating air to go. What makes this fact so enjoyable is that it is completely impossible to believe until you test it yourself, and the moment you do, you feel mildly betrayed by your own face. It also reveals how little most people understand about how their body produces basic sounds. Singing, humming, speaking, whispering, all involve incredibly precise coordination between your lungs, vocal cords, mouth, tongue, and nose, and almost all of it happens automatically, without you thinking about it for even a single second of your entire life. Fact 3. The average person walks past 36 murderers in their lifetime. This statistic comes from criminologists estimating the number of active killers in a population at any given time, combined with how many strangers the average person passes in public over a lifetime. The figure of 36 is frequently cited, though it varies depending on where you live. The more thought-provoking part is not the number itself, but what it implies: that dangerous people are almost never visibly dangerous. Serial killers statistically look like everyone else. They shop at the same grocery stores, sit in the same waiting rooms, walk the same streets. The human brain is wired to assume people who look normal are normal, which is a useful social shortcut almost all of the time and occasionally a catastrophic one. The scariest thing about genuinely dangerous people is not that they seem threatening, it is precisely that they almost never do. Fact 4. Hot water freezes faster than cold water, and nobody fully agrees on why. This is called the Mpemba effect, named after a Tanzanian student named Erasto Mpemba, who noticed in 1963 that hot ice cream mix was freezing faster than cold mix in his school kitchen. He told a physicist named Dennis Osborne, who tested it and confirmed it was real. Here is the maddening part. Scientists have been arguing about why ever since. Leading explanations involve differences in dissolved gases, evaporation reducing the mass of hot water, or hydrogen bonding behaving differently at higher temperatures. No single explanation has been universally accepted. So the next time someone tells you cold water obviously freezes faster because it is colder, you can tell them a schoolboy in Tanzania cracked open one of the most quietly controversial questions in basic physics, and some of the most brilliant scientists on Earth still cannot agree on the answer. Fact 5. You replace your entire skeleton roughly every 10 years. Your bones feel permanent and solid, the framework that will outlast everything else, but they are living tissue in constant renovation. Specialized cells called osteoclasts continuously break down old bone, while osteoblasts build new bone to replace it. This process, called bone remodeling, means nearly every cell in your skeleton is replaced over roughly a decade, though different bones turn over at different rates. The calcium you eat today is literally becoming your skeleton. This is why nutrition matters so much. Your bones are not fixed structures. They are living, rebuilding systems that depend entirely on what you consume. It also means the skeleton you will have at 60 was largely built from food eaten in your 50s. You are continuously, silently constructing and reconstructing the very scaffolding that holds you upright, and most people go their entire lives without ever thinking about it once. Fact 6. Grocery stores are specifically designed to make you spend more money. Almost nothing about a grocery store layout is accidental. Milk and eggs are placed at the back, so you walk past hundreds of products to reach them. The bakery is near the entrance because fresh bread smells trigger hunger and put shoppers in an indulgent mood before they have even grabbed a basket. Eye-level shelving is sold to brands as premium placement because humans instinctively reach for what is directly in their sightline. Shopping carts were deliberately made larger over the decades because studies showed people fill whatever space they have. Slow, relaxing music makes shoppers walk slower and spend more time in the store. Even placing fresh produce near the entrance is intentional. Seeing healthy food first makes shoppers feel virtuous, and feeling virtuous makes people more likely to treat themselves to indulgent items further down the aisles. Every square foot is a psychological experiment, and you are the test subject every single visit. Fact 7. Your brain is more active at night than during the day. It seems backward. Surely your brain works hardest when solving problems and navigating the world. But during deep sleep and REM sleep, your brain enters extraordinary activity that surpasses many waking states. This is when memories are consolidated, transferring from short-term to long-term storage, your brain deciding what from your day is worth keeping. It flushes out toxic waste products through the glymphatic system, which is largely inactive when you're awake. It processes emotional experiences and rehearses motor skills. Pulling an all-nighter does not just make you tired. It actively prevents your brain from doing complex biological work that makes everything you learned that day actually stick. Sleep is not downtime for your brain. It is prime time. The lights go off, and the real work quietly begins, running processes that keep you functional, emotionally stable, and mentally sharp for whatever comes next. Fact 8. The average person spends 6 months of their life waiting at red lights. Over a driving lifetime, the cumulative time spent at red traffic lights adds up to approximately 6 months of continuous time. That is roughly 180 days of your one life staring at a red circle waiting for it to turn green. Studies suggest the average driver hits around 1-200 red lights per year, with each stop averaging about 75 seconds. Multiply that across decades, and the number becomes genuinely uncomfortable. This fact hits differently depending on your relationship with your commute. Some people find it clarifying, prompting them to use those moments for audiobooks or podcasts. Others find it simply bleak. Either way, it is a reminder that enormous portions of life are spent in transition and waiting, and what you choose to do with those accumulated moments, multiplied across thousands of repetitions, adds up to something significant whether you intended it to or not. Fact 9. Drinking too much water can actually kill you. Hydration is so relentlessly promoted that most people never consider it can be taken fatally far. The condition is called hyponatremia, or water intoxication. It occurs when you drink so much water so quickly that your kidneys cannot process it fast enough, diluting the sodium levels in your blood. Sodium controls fluid balance inside and around cells. When levels drop too low, water moves into cells and they begin to swell. Most cells handle limited swelling, but brain cells cannot expand because the skull is a sealed, rigid container. Swelling brain tissue inside a fixed skull causes pressure that leads to headaches, confusion, seizures, coma, and in serious cases, death. This has happened to marathon runners, military recruits, and people in water drinking contests. Even the most essential substance your body needs has a threshold, and crossing it badly enough is fatal. Fact 10. The new car smell is actually toxic. One of the most universally loved smells in modern life is produced by a cocktail of volatile organic compounds off-gassing from the plastics, adhesives, fabrics, and vinyl inside a new car. These compounds include benzene, formaldehyde, and toluene, all considered harmful to human health at sufficient exposure levels. Studies have found that interior air in a new car can contain VOC concentrations dozens of times higher than outdoor air, especially in hot weather when heat accelerates the process. Parking a new car in direct sunlight and climbing inside creates a small enclosed space filled with notably elevated chemical levels. The smell fades over weeks as the materials finish off-gassing. The irony is that the stronger and more wonderful the new car smell is to you, the more material is actively releasing compounds into the air you are breathing. Nobody selling you that car is rushing to explain exactly what you are inhaling. Fact 11. Your nose can detect over 1 trillion different smells. Scientists once believed humans could detect around 10,000 scents. A 2014 Rockefeller University study completely shattered that assumption, estimating the nose can distinguish over 1 trillion unique odor combinations. You have about 400 smell receptors, and the way they combine creates an almost incomprehensible range of sensitivity. Smell is the most memory-linked sense in the entire body, processed through the olfactory bulb, which connects directly to the hippocampus and amygdala, the regions handling memory and emotion. This is why a single familiar smell can flood you with vivid memories from decades ago, faster than any photograph ever could. Smell also adapts the fastest of all senses. Within minutes, your brain stops registering a continuous scent as new information, which is why you stop noticing your own home's smell almost immediately after walking through the front door every single day of your life. Fact 12. You are taller in the morning than at night. Every single morning you wake up slightly taller than when you went to sleep. Throughout the day, gravity continuously compresses the cartilage discs sitting between the vertebrae in your spine. These discs are spongy and fluid-filled, acting as shock absorbers, but under constant downward pressure, they slowly compress and lose fluid as the day goes on. By bedtime, you can be anywhere from half an inch to a full inch shorter than you were at sunrise. While you sleep horizontally, gravity no longer pulls down along your spine, and those discs slowly reabsorb fluid and expand back to full thickness overnight. Astronauts experience this so very dramatically. In microgravity with zero compression, they can grow up to 3 inches taller during a mission. When they return to Earth, gravity reasserts itself and they shrink back to normal height within days. Your spine quietly expands and compresses every single day without you ever noticing. Fact 13. Humans are the only animals that enjoy spicy food. Every other animal on the planet actively avoids spicy food when given the choice. Capsaicin, the compound making chili peppers hot, is a plant defense mechanism specifically designed to deter mammals from eating them. It works on virtually every creature on Earth except humans. We are the sole species that not only tolerates capsaicin, but actively seeks it out and builds entire cuisines around it. The burning sensation spicy food creates is not actually a taste, it is pain. Capsaicin triggers the same nerve receptors that respond to genuine heat and physical burning. Your mouth is registering an alarm signal, not a flavor. Humans are unique because our brains learn to interpret that pain as pleasurable, likely due to the endorphins released in response. We enjoy eating something painful because our brains reward us for surviving it. Birds are completely immune to capsaicin, which is why peppers rely on birds to spread their seeds. Fact 14. The average person produces enough saliva in a lifetime to fill 2 swimming pools. Your salivary glands produce between 1 and 2 liters of saliva every single day without you asking. Over a lifetime that adds up to between 25,000 and 50,000 liters. Enough to fill 2 swimming pools. Saliva does far more than keep your mouth moist. It contains enzymes that begin breaking down food the moment it enters your mouth, making it the actual first stage of digestion. It contains antibacterial compounds fighting mouth infections constantly. It neutralizes acids that would otherwise erode your tooth enamel after every meal. Without saliva, you could barely taste anything at all. People with chronic dry mouth from medication suffer tooth decay, difficulty swallowing, and taste loss almost immediately. That unconscious liquid your body produces every single hour of every day is doing enormous invisible work that most people never once stop to appreciate or think about. Fact 15. You cannot tickle yourself. No matter how hard you try, you simply cannot tickle yourself. The reason is rooted in how your brain predicts movement. Your cerebellum monitors your own actions and anticipates the sensory result of everything you do before you do it. When you move your hand toward your body, your brain has already predicted exactly what contact will feel like before your fingers arrive. Because there is no element of surprise, the tickle response never fires. Tickling from someone else works precisely because your brain cannot predict the timing, pressure, or location of another person's movements. Unpredictability is the entire mechanism. Scientists built a tickle robot with an adjustable time delay, and participants reported genuine tickling once the delay felt unpredictable enough. Your brain protects you from wasting energy reacting to your own touch every second of your life, running this system so silently and efficiently that you never once notice it. Fact 16. Cows have best friends and get stressed when separated. Cows are far more emotionally complex than most people realize. Research from the University of Northampton found that cows form strong preferential bonds with specific individuals in their herd, genuine best friendships. When paired with their preferred companion, cows show measurably lower heart rates and reduced stress hormones. When separated from that companion, those same cows show significant increases in cortisol and begin calling out for the missing animal. Cows also hold grudges, show excitement when solving problems, and display what researchers describe as eureka responses when they figure something out. They form social hierarchies and experience something close to anxiety in loud or chaotic environments. The image of cows as passive, blank-faced creatures standing quietly in fields turns out to be almost entirely wrong. They have rich internal social lives happening quietly behind those large, calm eyes. Fact 17. The inventor of the Frisbee was turned into a Frisbee after he died. Walter Frederick Morrison invented the modern Frisbee in 1948 and sold the rights to Wham-O in 1957, making it one of the best-selling toys in history. Morrison was so passionate about his invention that he left instructions for his family to have him cremated and his ashes mixed into plastic and molded into Frisbees after his death in 2010. His family honored the request. A portion of his remains were pressed into Frisbees and distributed to close friends and family. It sounds too strange to be true, but is fully verified and documented. Morrison spent his life perfecting a simple spinning disc, watched it become a worldwide cultural icon, and pulled off the most on-brand exit from this world that any inventor has ever managed. Somewhere out there, Frisbees containing his ashes have been thrown across beaches and parks by people who had absolutely no idea what they were holding in their hands. Fact 18. Your eyes are actually part of your brain. This sounds like a metaphor, but it is literal biology. Your eyes are not separate organs sending signals to your brain. They are direct outgrowths of brain tissue itself. During embryonic development, the eyes form as extensions of the developing brain, pushing outward to become the visual organs you use today. The optic nerve is not a peripheral nerve, it is central nervous system tissue, the same category as your spinal cord. This is why diseases like glaucoma, which damages the optic nerve, are treated as neurological events rather than simple vision problems. It also explains why examining someone's eyes can reveal information about brain health and blood pressure. When you look into someone's eyes, you are, in a completely literal anatomical sense, looking directly at an exposed extension of their brain. Eyes are not windows to the soul. They are windows to the central nervous system. Fact 19. The hashtag symbol has an official name, and it is not hashtag. The symbol universally called the hashtag has an official name almost nobody uses. It is called an octothorpe. The octo prefix refers to the 8 points on its outer edges. The thorpe portion is debated. One story says Bell Laboratories engineers added it in the 1960s as a tribute to Olympic athlete Jim Thorpe when designing telephone keypads. Others believe Thorpe simply meant village in Old English. The symbol long predates social media, appearing in cartography, music notation, and medical shorthand for decades before the internet existed. When Twitter introduced it as an organizing tool in 2007, the word hashtag immediately overtook its actual name in everyday language forever. Billions of people now use the octothorpe daily across every platform on Earth without ever knowing it has been called anything else at all. Fact 20. It is impossible to sneeze with your eyes open. Sneezing with your eyes open is something almost nobody can do voluntarily. The closure is a reflex controlled by the brainstem, triggered simultaneously with the sneeze itself. The leading theory is protective. A sneeze expels air at around 100 miles per hour, carrying bacteria and particles you do not want landing directly on your eyes. The reflex closes the eyelids as a barrier before any of that can happen. There is a persistent myth that keeping your eyes open during a sneeze would cause your eyeballs to pop out, which is completely false. The muscles holding eyes in place are far stronger than any pressure a sneeze could ever generate. But the reflex is so deeply hardwired that most people cannot override it even while actively trying. Some claim to manage it with extreme concentration, but for the vast majority of humans, every sneeze comes with an automatic blink that fires faster than conscious thought can intervene. Fact 21. The average person walks about 100,000 miles in their lifetime. Over the course of a full life, the average person takes somewhere between 100 million and 150 million steps. When you do the math, that translates to roughly 100,000 miles of total walking, enough to circle the entire Earth 4 times over. Most people never think about the sheer mechanical workload placed on their body simply by moving through daily life. Every step involves dozens of muscles firing in precise sequence, your brain making constant micro-adjustments to balance, and your joints absorbing impact forces equal to several times your body weight. Your feet alone contain 26 bones, 33 joints, and over 100 muscles, tendons, and ligaments, all working in coordination thousands of times a day. The human body is so well engineered for walking that most people do it for decades without a single serious mechanical failure, which is one of the most underappreciated engineering achievements in the natural world. Fact 22. Identical twins do not have identical fingerprints. Despite sharing virtually the same DNA, identical twins have completely unique fingerprints. This surprises most people because fingerprints are assumed to be purely genetic, and they partly are. The general pattern type, such as loops or whorls, is influenced by genetics. But the fine detail of each ridge and groove is shaped by random physical forces inside the womb. Finger position against the womb wall, amniotic fluid pressure, and the speed of fetal movement during the weeks when fingerprints form all contribute differently for each twin. These are chaotic, unpredictable variables that genetics simply cannot control. The result is that two people sharing nearly identical DNA produce entirely unique ridge patterns on every single finger. This is why fingerprints remain one of the most reliable identification tools available. Even nature, with all its tendency toward repetition, has never produced two identical sets. Fact 23. Your stomach gets a completely new lining every 4 days. The inner lining of your stomach is one of the most rapidly replaced surfaces in the entire human body. Stomach acid is strong enough to dissolve metal and would eat right through the stomach wall itself if given the chance. To prevent this, the cells lining your stomach are shed and completely replaced roughly every 3 to 4 days. Your body rebuilds the entire inner surface of your stomach multiple times a month, every month, for your whole life. This constant renewal is why the stomach remains so resilient, despite containing one of the most corrosive substances your body produces. Ulcers occur when this protective lining breaks down faster than it can rebuild. Essentially a failure of one of your body's most impressive ongoing construction projects. Your stomach is quietly demolishing and reconstructing itself over and over while you go about your entire day completely unaware. Fact 24. The human brain can read words even if only the first and last letters are correct. It disont meter in wat order the letters in a rodar, the only hypermotent tying is tat the frist and sat latirbi in the rugged pakle. You just read that sentence without much difficulty at all. Your brain does not read letter by letter. It recognizes whole word shapes and fills in the gaps using context and pattern recognition at extraordinary speed. This is called typoglycemia, and it reveals how aggressively your brain shortcuts the reading process to save time and energy. It also explains why proofreading your own writing is so notoriously difficult. Your brain already knows what you meant to write, so it automatically corrects errors as it reads, making typos and mistakes nearly invisible to the person who wrote them. Your brain is not reading reality. It is constantly predicting it and patching over the gaps without ever asking your permission. Fact 25. Supermarkets deliberately pump artificial scents through their ventilation systems. You already know grocery stores are designed to manipulate your spending, but the manipulation goes further than layout and lighting. Many large supermarkets pump artificially produced scents through their ventilation systems to influence shopper behavior. The bakery smell that hits you near the entrance is frequently not real baking at all. It is produced by scent machines specifically installed to trigger hunger and put shoppers in an indulgent mood before they have touched a single item. Fragrance companies sell specially formulated retail scents designed to slow people down, increase comfort, and encourage longer browsing time. Studies have shown that pleasant ambient scenting can increase sales by measurable percentages without shoppers ever realizing anything unusual is happening. You walk in for milk, get hit with the smell of warm bread, and suddenly your basket is full. Your nose is being used against you every single time. Fact 26. Honey never expires, and edible honey has been found in ancient Egyptian tombs. Archaeologists excavating ancient Egyptian tombs have discovered honey thousands of years old that was still perfectly edible. The oldest known honey, found in Georgian archaeological sites, is estimated to be around 5,500 years old. Honey's remarkable preservation comes down to chemistry. It is extremely low in moisture, which means bacteria and microorganisms cannot survive in it long enough to cause spoilage. It is also highly acidic and naturally produces small amounts of hydrogen peroxide, both of which make it deeply hostile to microbial life. As long as honey is stored sealed and kept away from moisture, it will essentially never go bad. Beekeepers have reported reopening hives abandoned for decades and finding perfectly preserved honey inside. In a world where almost every food has an expiration date, honey sits in a category almost entirely alone, a natural product so chemically stable that time itself cannot meaningfully touch it. Fact 27. The average person spends over a year of their life looking at their phone. Studies on smartphone usage consistently find that the average person picks up their phone somewhere between 80 and 150 times per day and spends between 3 and 5 hours actively staring at the screen. Over the course of a year, that adds up to somewhere between 45 and 75 full days of screen time. Over an average lifetime, that is well over a year of continuous waking hours spent looking at a glass rectangle. What makes this figure striking is how invisible it feels in the moment. No single session feels significant. A few minutes here, a quick scroll there. But those fragments accumulate silently into something enormous. Entire months of your finite life are being spent in a feed designed by engineers whose entire job is to make sure you never want to put it down. Most people, when confronted with the actual number, find it genuinely uncomfortable to sit with. Fact 28. Octopuses have 3 hearts and blue blood. An octopus has 3 hearts working simultaneously to keep it alive. 2 of those hearts, called branchial hearts, pump blood specifically through the gills where it picks up oxygen. The 3rd heart, the systemic heart, then pumps that oxygenated blood out to the rest of the body. When an octopus swims rather than crawls, the systemic heart actually stops beating entirely, which is why octopuses tire so quickly during open water swimming and strongly prefer crawling along surfaces. Their blood is blue because it uses a copper-based molecule called hemocyanin to carry oxygen instead of the iron-based hemoglobin that makes human blood red. Hemocyanin is less efficient than hemoglobin in warm conditions, but works remarkably well in cold, low-oxygen environments like the deep ocean. The octopus is one of those creatures that makes you realize evolution had far more creative options on the table than the ones it gave us. Fact 29. The average person makes about 35,000 decisions every single day. Researchers estimate that the average adult makes somewhere around 35,000 conscious and subconscious decisions every single day. That breaks down to roughly 2,000 decisions per hour, or 1 decision every 2 seconds across every waking moment. The vast majority of these are so small and automatic that they never reach conscious awareness. How hard to press your foot on the ground, where to direct your eyes, how much force to use picking up a glass. But even larger conscious decisions stack up rapidly throughout the day. Studies have found that this relentless volume of decision-making leads to a real phenomenon called decision fatigue, where the quality of decisions measurably declines as the day goes on. This is why judges give harsher rulings before lunch, why impulse purchases happen more in the evening, and why successful people famously simplify trivial choices like clothing to protect mental energy for things that actually matter. Fact 30. Humans are bioluminescent and literally glow in the dark. The human body emits a faint visible glow at all times. This is not metaphor or infrared heat radiation. It is actual visible light produced by chemical reactions happening inside your cells as a byproduct of metabolism. The glow is roughly 1,000 times too faint for the human eye to detect under normal conditions, but in 2009, Japanese researchers used extremely sensitive cameras in completely dark rooms to photograph and confirm it. The light fluctuates throughout the day, peaking in the late afternoon around the face and hands where metabolic activity is highest. Every living human being is quietly emitting photons around the clock. The reason we cannot see each other glow is simply that our eyes are not sensitive enough to pick it up. In a very literal physical sense, every person you have ever met has been faintly glowing the entire time, and neither of you ever knew it. Fact 31. The smell of rain has an official name. That distinctive, deeply pleasant smell that rises from the ground when rain hits dry earth after a long dry spell has a proper scientific name: petrichor. The word was coined in 1964 by two Australian scientists, Isabel Joy Baer and Richard Thomas, who identified the compounds responsible for it. The primary source of the smell is an oil produced by plants during dry periods that gets absorbed into soil and rocks. When rain arrives, it disturbs and releases that oil into the air as fine droplets. A second compound called geosmin, produced by bacteria in the soil, contributes the deep, earthy undertone. Humans are extraordinarily sensitive to geosmin. We can detect it at concentrations as low as a few parts per trillion, making it one of the smells humans can sense at the lowest concentration of almost anything. Scientists believe this sensitivity evolved because the smell of rain signaled fresh water and new plant growth to our ancestors. Fact 29. The average person makes about 35,000 decisions every single day. Researchers estimate that the average adult makes somewhere around 35,000 conscious and subconscious decisions every single day. That breaks down to roughly 2,000 decisions per hour, or one decision every 2 seconds across every waking moment. The vast majority of these are so small and automatic that they never reach conscious awareness. How hard to press your foot on the ground, where to direct your eyes, how much force to use picking up a glass. But even larger conscious decisions stack up rapidly throughout the day. Studies have found that this relentless volume of decision-making leads to a real phenomenon called decision fatigue, where the quality of decisions measurably declines as the day goes on. This is why judges give harsher rulings before lunch, why impulse purchases happen more in the evening, and why successful people famously simplify trivial choices like clothing to protect mental energy for things that actually matter. Fact 30. Humans are bioluminescent and literally glow in the dark. The human body emits a faint visible glow at all times. This is not metaphor or infrared heat radiation. It is actual visible light produced by chemical reactions happening inside your cells as a byproduct of metabolism. The glow is roughly 1,000 times too faint for the human eye to detect under normal conditions, but in 2009, Japanese researchers used extremely sensitive cameras in completely dark rooms to photograph and confirm it. The light fluctuates throughout the day, peaking in the late afternoon around the face and hands where metabolic activity is highest. Every living human being is quietly emitting photons around the clock. The reason we cannot see each other glow is simply that our eyes are not sensitive enough to pick it up. In a very literal physical sense, every person you have ever met has been faintly glowing the entire time, and neither of you ever knew it. Fact 31. The smell of rain has an official name. That distinctive, deeply pleasant smell that rises from the ground when rain hits dry earth after a long dry spell has a proper scientific name: petrichor. The word was coined in 1964 by two Australian scientists, Isabel Joy Baer and Richard Thomas, who identified the compounds responsible for it. The primary source of the smell is an oil produced by plants during dry periods that gets absorbed into soil and rocks. When rain arrives, it disturbs and releases that oil into the air as fine droplets. A second compound called geosmin, produced by bacteria in the soil, contributes the deep, earthy undertone. Humans are extraordinarily sensitive to geosmin. We can detect it at concentrations as low as a few parts per trillion, making it one of the smells humans can sense at the lowest concentration of almost anything. Scientists believe this sensitivity evolved because the smell of rain signaled fresh water and new plant growth to our ancestors. Fact 32. Your body replaces most of its cells every 7 to 10 years. The idea that you are essentially a different person every decade is grounded in real biology. Most of the cells in your body are not permanent. They are continuously dying and being replaced at different rates depending on the tissue. Red blood cells last about 4 months. Skin cells turn over every 2 to 3 weeks. Liver cells replace themselves every 150 to 500 days. Taste receptor cells on your tongue last only about 10 days. Some cells, like certain neurons in your brain and the cells of your eye lens, are with you for your entire life and never replaced at all. The popular claim that every cell replaces itself every 7 years is a simplification, but the underlying truth is real. The physical matter making up your body is in a constant state of turnover. The you of 10 years ago shared your memories and personality, but was built from almost entirely different biological material than the you reading this right now. Fact 33. Trees can communicate and share resources with each other underground. Beneath any healthy forest floor exists an enormous underground network of fungal threads connecting the root systems of trees to one another. Scientists call this the mycorrhizal network, though it has been nicknamed the Wood Wide Web. Through this network, trees genuinely share nutrients, water, and chemical signals with neighboring trees. Larger established trees have been observed sending sugar and carbon to younger seedlings that are not yet receiving enough sunlight to feed themselves. When a tree is attacked by insects, it sends chemical warning signals through the network that cause neighboring trees to begin producing defensive compounds in their own leaves before the insects even arrive. Trees under stress send distress signals. Dying trees have been observed transferring their remaining resources to surrounding trees before they go. The forest is not a collection of individual competing organisms. It is a deeply interconnected community operating on a timescale too slow for most humans to notice. Fact 34. The color orange was named after the fruit, not the other way around. Before oranges arrived in Europe, the English language had no word for the color that sits between red and yellow. The fruit, which came to Europe via trade routes from Asia around the 15th century, brought its name with it, derived from the Sanskrit word naranga. Once the fruit became familiar enough, people began using its name to describe the color it represented. Before that, English speakers described what we now call orange using words like geoluread, meaning yellow-red. This means that for most of English linguistic history, the color orange simply did not exist as a named concept. Poets and writers described sunsets, autumn leaves, and flames without ever having a word for one of the most visually striking colors in nature. The humble citrus fruit essentially donated its name. Fact 35. You inhale about 11,000 liters of air every single day. The average adult takes somewhere between 17,000 and 23,000 breaths per day, without ever consciously deciding to do so. Each breath pulls in roughly half a liter of air, which adds up to around 11,000 liters of air flowing through your lungs every 24 hours. That air travels through an intricate branching system of airways that, if laid out flat, would cover an area roughly the size of a tennis court. Your lungs contain around 480 million tiny air sacs called alveoli, each one surrounded by a web of capillaries where oxygen crosses into your blood and carbon dioxide crosses out in a continuous exchange happening hundreds of times per minute. Your respiratory system runs completely automatically through every sleep, every distraction, every moment of your life, and the only time most people ever think about breathing is when something goes wrong with it. The body keeps breathing long after the mind has stopped paying any attention at all. Fact 36. Cleopatra lived closer in time to the moon landing than to the building of the Great Pyramid. Most people picture Cleopatra as part of the ancient pyramid-building world of Egypt, but the timeline is genuinely shocking. The Great Pyramid of Giza was completed around 2560 BC. Cleopatra was born in 69 BC, meaning roughly 2,500 years separated her from the pyramids. The moon landing happened in 1969 AD, which is only about 2,000 years after Cleopatra's death. So, in the grand sweep of history, Cleopatra was actually closer, by around 500 years, to astronauts walking on the moon than she was to the workers stacking those enormous limestone blocks in the desert. The pyramids are so ancient that Cleopatra herself would have looked at them as mysterious and almost mythical structures, much the same way we look at her today. Time is far stranger and more lopsided than most people ever stop to realize. Fact 37. The total weight of all ants on Earth roughly equals the total weight of all humans. For most of human history, this claim would have seemed absurd, but scientific estimates have repeatedly supported it. There are estimated to be somewhere between 10 quadrillion and 100 quadrillion individual ants alive on Earth at any given moment. Each ant is tiny, but the sheer number of them means their combined biomass is staggering. Recent research has placed the total mass of all ants at around 12 million tons of carbon, which is comparable to or exceeds the carbon mass of all humans combined. Ants exist on every continent except Antarctica, in virtually every habitat on land, and in colonies ranging from a few dozen to hundreds of millions of individuals. They collectively move more soil than earthworms, farm fungi, herd insects, wage organized warfare, and have been doing all of it for over 100 million years. In terms of sheer biological dominance of the land surface of this planet, ants have an argument that no other creature, including human. Fact 38. Your heart beats around 100,000 times every single day. Without any conscious input from you, your heart contracts and relaxes roughly 100,000 times every 24 hours. That is around 35 million beats per year and over 2.5 billion beats over an average lifetime, all without ever stopping for maintenance, rest, or repair. Each beat forces blood through approximately 60,000 miles of blood vessels, a network so vast that if you stretched every artery, vein, and capillary in a single human body, end to end, they would circle the Earth more than twice. The heart is made of a unique type of muscle called cardiac muscle that exists nowhere else in the body and is specifically designed to never fatigue the way skeletal muscles do. It begins beating around 22 days after conception, before the brain has even formed, and it does not stop until the moment of death. Most people go their entire lives treating their heart as background noise, while it quietly performs one of the most relentless mechanical feats in the known natural world. Fact 39. Bananas are technically berries, but strawberries are not. Botanical definitions of fruit categories routinely betray common sense in ways that take a moment to fully absorb. A berry, in strict botanical terms, is a fleshy fruit that develops from a single flower with one ovary and typically contains seeds embedded in the flesh. By that definition, bananas qualify perfectly. They develop from a single ovary, the seeds are embedded inside, and the entire structure is fleshy fruit. Avocados, kiwis, and watermelons are also technically berries. Strawberries, on the other hand, develop from a flower with multiple ovaries and are classified as aggregate accessory fruits, meaning the part we eat is not technically the fruit at all, but an enlarged receptacle with the actual tiny fruits dotted across its surface. The same applies to raspberries and blackberries. Language and biology parted ways on this topic centuries ago and have never bothered to reconcile, leaving everyone mildly unsettled at the produce aisle forever. Fact 40. The human body contains enough fat to make about 7 bars of soap. The average human body carries somewhere between 15 and 30% of its weight as fat, depending on the individual. That fat is composed largely of triglycerides, the same category of fatty compounds used in the traditional soap-making process called saponification, where fats are reacted with an alkali to produce soap. When you do the math on an average adult body, the fat content works out to roughly enough raw material to produce around 7 standard bars of soap. This fact became grimly famous because of its connection to historical atrocities, but stripped of that context, it is a genuine piece of chemistry that reveals how the human body is, at its core, a collection of compounds that overlap significantly with the everyday material world around us. Your body is not made of something exotic or otherworldly. Fact 41. The longest anyone has ever gone without sleep is 11 days. In 1964, a 17-year-old high school student named Randy Gardner stayed awake for 264 hours, exactly 11 days, as part of a science fair experiment monitored by Stanford sleep researcher William Dement. By day 2, Gardner was having difficulty focusing his eyes. By day 4, he was experiencing hallucinations and paranoia. By day 6, he could not recall short-term memories for more than a few minutes. By day 9, he was struggling to complete simple sentences, and his speech had become slurred. By day 11, he was essentially functioning on autopilot, his brain periodically shutting down individual regions for microsleep, even while he remained technically conscious. After finally sleeping for 15 hours, he recovered remarkably well with no apparent long-term damage. What the experiment revealed was not human resilience, but the opposite. How quickly and catastrophically the brain deteriorates without sleep, and how desperately every system in the body depends on it to survive. Fact 42. Sharks are older than trees. This is one of those facts that completely reorders your mental timeline of life on Earth. Sharks have existed as a species for approximately 450 million years. The earliest land plants that would eventually evolve into trees appeared around 385 million years ago, meaning sharks were already swimming in the oceans for roughly 65 million years before a single tree existed anywhere on the planet. Sharks predate not just trees, but also Saturn's rings, which are estimated to be only around 100 million years old. They survived all 5 of Earth's major mass extinction events, including the one that wiped out the dinosaurs 66 million years ago. The creature most people associate with modern danger and primal fear is in fact one of the oldest large predators still alive on Earth today, virtually unchanged in its fundamental design for hundreds of millions of years. Evolution looked at the shark and decided it was already close enough to perfect to leave mostly alone. Fact 43. Your ears never stop hearing even when you are fully asleep. Unlike your eyes, which close and cut off visual input entirely during sleep, your ears remain fully active and continue transmitting sound information to your brain throughout the night. Your brain does not go deaf during sleep. It actively monitors incoming sound and makes decisions about which sounds are significant enough to wake you. This is why a parent will sleep through traffic noise but wake instantly at the sound of their baby crying, and why your own name spoken softly in a room will pull you from sleep more reliably than a loud, unfamiliar sound. During deep sleep, your brain applies a kind of filtering system, suppressing most sounds from reaching conscious awareness while keeping threat-relevant sounds on high alert. Your auditory system evolved as a survival mechanism that could not. Fact 44. The average person spends about 6 years of their life dreaming. The average person spends roughly 2 hours dreaming every single night, which over a full lifetime adds up to approximately 6 full years spent inside dreams. Most of that dreaming happens during REM sleep, which occurs in cycles throughout the night, with the longest and most vivid REM periods happening in the final hours before waking. Despite 6 years of dreaming, most people forget the overwhelming majority of their dreams within minutes of waking up. Researchers believe this happens because the hippocampus, which is responsible for converting short-term experiences into long-term memories, is largely inactive during REM sleep. The brain produces the experience, but does not file it away the way it would a waking memory. What makes this stranger still is that during REM sleep, your brain is nearly as active as when you are fully awake, running entire simulated realities complete with characters, narratives, emotions, and sensory detail that feel completely real until the moment they vanish. Fact 45. Competitive eating records reveal the human stomach can expand to hold over 4 liters. Under normal circumstances, the human stomach holds around 1 liter of food and liquid comfortably. When stretched to capacity, it can expand to roughly 2 liters in most adults. But competitive eaters have demonstrated through documented records that with sufficient training and practice, the stomach can be pushed significantly beyond that. Joey Chestnut, the most decorated competitive eater in history, has consumed over 70 hot dogs in 10 minutes during official competition. Studies on competitive eaters using imaging technology have found their stomachs expanding to extraordinary sizes without triggering the normal fullness signals that would stop an average person long before that point. Researchers discovered that elite competitive eaters appear to have essentially suppressed or overridden their satiety reflex almost entirely. The stomach is designed to be flexible, but what competitive eating reveals is that the limits most people assume are fixed. Biological boundaries are in some cases simply habits. The body has never been pushed past. Fact 46. Every single person alive today is descended from the same woman. Scientists studying mitochondrial DNA, which is passed unchanged from mother to child through every generation, have traced all living human maternal lineages back to a single woman who lived in Africa approximately 150,000 to 200,000 years ago. She is called Mitochondrial Eve. This does not mean she was the only woman alive at the time. She almost certainly was not. It means that every other maternal lineage from her era eventually died out over generations, leaving her line as the only one to survive continuously to the present day. Every person alive on Earth today, regardless of where they were born or what they look like, carries a direct, unbroken maternal line back to. Fact 47. The average cloud weighs about 1.1 million pounds. Clouds look weightless and impossibly light floating overhead, but the reality is staggering. A typical cumulus cloud, the fluffy white kind you see on a sunny afternoon, contains roughly 500 million grams of water in the form of microscopic droplets. That converts to approximately 1.1 million pounds, or about the weight of 100 elephants suspended in the sky above your head. The reason clouds do not fall despite this enormous mass is that the water droplets inside them are so incredibly tiny that air resistance and updrafts of warm rising air support them almost indefinitely. When droplets collide and merge into larger drops, heavy enough that updrafts can no longer support them, they fall as rain. Storm clouds are dramatically heavier. A large cumulonimbus thunderstorm cloud can contain water weighing several times more than the entire Empire State Building. The sky above any given city on a cloudy day is carrying a weight most people would find genuinely difficult to comprehend. Fact 48. Your body produces a completely new skeleton roughly every 10 years. Your bones feel permanent, the framework that will outlast everything else about you. But they are living tissue in a constant state of renovation. Specialized cells called osteoclasts continuously break down old bone, while osteoblasts build new bone to replace it in a process called remodeling. Different bones turn over at different rates, but across roughly a decade, almost every cell in your skeleton has been replaced. The calcium and minerals you consume today are literally becoming your bones right now. This is why nutrition matters so profoundly. Your skeleton is not a fixed structure, passively absorbing whatever punishment you give it. It is a living rebuilding system that depends entirely on what you feed it to rebuild correctly. It also means the bones you will have in old age are being constructed from the food you eat today. Most people walk through life treating their skeleton as furniture, when it is actually one of the most active tissues in the entire body. Fact 49. The universe contains more stars than grains of sand on all of Earth's beaches. The total number of grains of sand on every beach and desert on Earth is estimated at around 7.5 quintillion, that is 7.5 followed by 18 zeros. It is a number so large that most human brains simply cannot form a meaningful image of it. And yet the estimated number of stars in the observable universe is approximately 200 sextillion, a 2 followed by 23 zeros, which is roughly 26,000 times larger than the total sand grain count. Every single one of those stars is a sun, many of them larger and brighter than our own, and a significant proportion of them are now believed to host planetary systems. The observable universe is only the portion we can detect from Earth. The full universe is almost certainly vastly larger and potentially infinite.